You think you control what you want, but your desire has been controlling you for years. Every attraction, every craving, every obsession came with a hidden script. You didn't notice it because it felt like you. Have you ever wondered why you are drawn to the same type of person, even when they hurt you? This isn't about love. It's not about romance. It's not even about sex. It's about identity. Desire is not random. It is patterned. And patterns are learned from childhood, from approval, from rejection, from shame. You didn't wake up one day and choose what excites you. Your nervous system decided long before your conscious mind formed an opinion. That's the part no one tells you. Desire is a survival signal. When you were young, your brain mapped safety. It mapped approval. It mapped attention. And then it fused those signals with attraction. If love felt unpredictable, your nervous system learned that unpredictability equals intensity. If approval felt conditional, your brain learned to crave validation like oxygen. This is not weakness. This is conditioning. And conditioning feels like truth. Think about the first time you felt chosen. The first time someone gave you attention that felt electric. Your brain released dopamine, oxytocin, adrenaline. It wired that moment into memory, not as a person, but as a pattern. You don't chase people. You chase emotional familiarity. And familiarity often feels like destiny. But destiny is usually repetition. Your attraction system was built during moments when you were too young to understand what was happening. If attention came from someone emotionally distant, you learned to associate distance with value. If affection came with withdrawal, you learned to associate anxiety with love. You think you want passion, but your nervous system might just want chaos it recognizes. That is how desire owns you. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, through repetition, through internal scripts, through invisible emotional maps. You believe you are choosing, but you are reacting. Every time you feel intense pull towards someone unavailable, your body is not chasing them. It is chasing unfinished emotional business. Your desire is not about them. It is about you trying to resolve something from your past without realizing it. This is why logic rarely wins against attraction. Because attraction does not speak the language of logic. It speaks the language of memory. And memory is powerful. Your brain doesn't care about happiness. It cares about familiarity. That's a hard sentence to accept. Happiness feels uncertain. Familiar pain feels predictable. Predictability equals safety to the nervous system. So you choose what feels intense, even if it destroys you. And then you call it chemistry. Chemistry is often just recognition. Recognition of a pattern you learned long ago. Ask yourself this. Why do you feel bored around people who treat you well? Why does stability feel dull? Why does calm feel like something is missing? Because your nervous system equates calm with emotional starvation. If chaos was normal in your childhood, calm feels foreign. Foreign feels unsafe. So you leave, and then you return to intensity. Not because you're broken, because your system is loyal. Loyal to old emotional wiring. Desire is not about pleasure alone. It is about identity reinforcement. Every time you chase someone who confirms your internal narrative, your identity strengthens. If your identity says, "I must earn love," you will desire people who make you earn it. If your identity says, "I am only valuable when chosen," you will crave attention more than connection. And you will confuse the two. This is how desire becomes a prison. You think you're pursuing love, but you're reinforcing a self-concept. The self-concept might be painful, but it is familiar, and familiarity feels like home, even if that home is unstable. Now let's go deeper. Sexual desire carries more identity weight than almost anything else, because sexuality is tied to worth, attractiveness, validation, power, acceptance. When someone desires you, it feels like confirmation that you exist. When they withdraw desire, it feels like erasure. So you don't just chase people. You chase proof. Proof that you are wanted. Proof that you are enough. Proof that you matter. And when that proof disappears, you panic. That panic is not love. It is an identity threat. Your nervous system reads rejection as a survival risk. Not because you will die, but because your social identity feels unstable. Humans evolved in tribes. Rejection once meant danger. Your body still reacts that way. Heart rate increases. Cortisol rises. Obsessive thinking begins. You call it missing them. But biologically, it is withdrawal. From validation. From dopamine. From certainty. Desire is chemically reinforcing. Every time you get intermittent validation, your brain strengthens the attachment. Unpredictable reward is the strongest addiction pattern known in psychology. Casinos use it. Social media uses it. And emotionally inconsistent people use it. Your desire spikes when reward is uncertain. That spike feels intense. Intensity feels meaningful. Meaningful feels like love. But intensity is often just uncertainty amplified. And uncertainty keeps you hooked. That is how desire owns you. It ties your worth to someone else's attention cycle. And you defend that attachment, even when it damages you, because leaving would mean questioning your entire identity. And that feels more terrifying than staying. You defend the very thing that controls you. Think about that. The person who destabilizes you. The pattern that drains you. The craving that distracts you. You justify it. You romanticize it. You intellectualize it. You spiritualize it. Because admitting the truth would fracture your identity. And identity collapse feels like death. So your mind protects the attachment. Not because it is healthy, but because it is familiar. There is a part of you that would rather suffer consistently than confront who you are without that desire. That part is not weak. It is adaptive. When you were young, your brain learned this equation. Attention equals safety. Desire equals worth. Being chosen equals survival. If attention was inconsistent, your nervous system became hyper-alert. Scanning, monitoring, anticipating. You learn to read microsignals, tone shifts, body language, delayed replies. Your body became trained to detect withdrawal. That training never stopped. Now when someone pulls away, you don't just feel disappointed. You feel activated. Your heart races. Your thoughts loop. Your imagination fills in worst-case scenarios. You call it overthinking. It is actually attachment activation. Your desire intensifies precisely when security decreases. That is not a coincidence. That is conditioning. You think you want them more, but what you actually want is the relief of being chosen again. Relief feels like love, but relief is just nervous system regulation. You don't crave the person, you crave the regulation. And when they give you attention again, your system calms. Dopamine rises, oxytocin flows, cortisol drops. Your brain says, this is it. But nothing changed, except your stress level. You are addicted to the cycle. Tension, withdrawal, reward. This cycle wires itself deeply, because unpredictable reward strengthens neural pathways more aggressively than consistent reward. That is basic behavioral psychology. The brain values uncertainty with potential payoff. It keeps you hooked. You think it is chemistry. It is intermittent reinforcement, and it owns you. Now let's go deeper into something uncomfortable. Sometimes your desire is not about love. It is about replay. Replay of early emotional experiences. Your psyche tries to resolve unfinished emotional chapters. If you felt unseen, you are drawn to people who partially see you. If you felt emotionally unsafe, you are drawn to emotionally unavailable people. Because somewhere inside, you believe, if I can make this one choose me, I will rewrite my past. But the past cannot be rewritten through repetition. It can only be healed through awareness. Until then, you chase similar stories with different faces and call it fate. It isn't fate. It is pattern recognition. Your brain recognizes emotional tone before it recognizes logic. If someone feels emotionally familiar, even if that familiarity is unstable, your body reacts before your mind analyzes. This is why red flags feel invisible at first. Because your system is scanning for emotional signature, not for healthy behavior. Your attraction system was designed for survival, not happiness. Survival favors familiarity. Familiarity favors repetition. Repetition feels like destiny. And destiny is hard to question. Now consider this. When someone is stable, emotionally available, consistent, your nervous system might interpret that as unfamiliar. Unfamiliar feels uncertain. Uncertain feels unsafe. So you label it boring. But boring might actually mean regulated. Regulated might mean healthy. And healthy might feel strange. Because chaos was your baseline. Desire is not proof of compatibility. It is proof of conditioning. That sentence alone can destabilize your identity. Because you built stories around your desires. You defined yourself through them. I'm just attracted to intense people. I need passion. I can't feel anything without chemistry. Those statements sound authentic, but they might be trauma-informed preferences. You don't need intensity. You need familiarity. And familiarity is not always healthy. Now let's talk about sexual identity. Sexual energy carries validation weight. If someone wants you, you feel powerful. If someone withdraws desire, you feel diminished. That's not vanity. That's identity reinforcement. Sexual attention is one of the fastest ways the brain confirms worth. It is primal. But if your worth depends on being desired, then your identity depends on external stimulus, which means your desire will constantly search for confirmation. That search can look like flirting, fantasy, obsession, emotional attachment, addictive attraction cycles. And every time someone responds positively, your identity feels stable. When they don't, it cracks. This is why rejection hurts beyond proportion. It isn't about them. It is about your constructed self being threatened. If your identity was built on being desirable, losing that confirmation feels like erasure. So you chase harder, not for love, for identity preservation. And that is where desire becomes control. Because you are no longer choosing, you are maintaining a fragile internal narrative. You don't want them. You want to remain who you believe you are. The desired one, the chosen one, the intense one. And if someone stable doesn't activate that narrative, you disengage. Not because they're wrong, but because they don't reinforce your identity script. This is how desire silently dictates your life decisions. Who you date, who you avoid, who you obsess over, who you ignore. It feels spontaneous, but it's patterned, and patterns are predictable. Now ask yourself something difficult. If your desire disappeared tomorrow, who would you be? Without craving, without chasing, without validation seeking. Who are you when you are not trying to be wanted? That question is uncomfortable, because beneath desire, there might be emptiness, and emptiness feels dangerous. So you fill it with attraction, with fantasy, with intensity, anything to avoid facing the void. But the void is not absence. It is an unexamined identity. And the moment you stop chasing desire, you start confronting yourself. That confrontation is identity collapse. And collapse feels destabilizing. But collapse is not destruction. It is deconstruction. You cannot rebuild consciously until unconscious patterns are exposed. Right now, your desire feels like your truth. But what if it is just your conditioning speaking loudly? What if the person you think you want? Is it simply the person who activates your oldest wound? That would mean you are not choosing love. You are choosing familiarity. And familiarity has been choosing for you. You defend it because it feels personal. But it was installed long before you knew who you were. And the moment you see that clearly, desire loses some of its grip. Not all, but enough. Enough to create space between stimulus and reaction. Enough to observe instead of automatically chasing. That space is freedom. But freedom feels unfamiliar. And unfamiliar feels unstable. Which means you might return to old patterns. Just to feel grounded again. That's how strong conditioning is. But awareness interrupts repetition. Slowly. And the more you observe your attraction patterns, the more predictable they become. When they become predictable, they become manageable. When they become manageable, they stop owning you. You start owning your reactions, not suppressing desire, understanding it, because desire itself is not the enemy. Unconscious desire is. When you become aware of why you want what you want, you gain leverage. Leverage creates choice. Choice dissolves automatic identity reinforcement. And once automatic reinforcement dissolves, the self you built around craving begins to weaken. That weakening feels uncomfortable because it exposes who you are without stimulation. But that exposure is clarity. And clarity is power, not dominance power, self-possession power. Now we move toward the fracture point. The moment when you realize you were never chasing people. You were chasing regulation. You were chasing familiarity. You were chasing identity stability. And the person in front of you was simply the vehicle. Once you see that, desire changes shape. It becomes data, not destiny. And when desire becomes data, it can no longer own you the same way. But that realization requires courage because it dismantles the story you told yourself for years. The story of passion, the story of fate, the story of chemistry. Those stories protected you, but they also confined you. And now the question becomes, are you willing to lose the illusion, to gain control? Or will you continue defending the thing that quietly owns you? This is not about suppressing sexuality. It is about reclaiming authorship. Right now, your desires write your story. The next stage is learning to read what they are actually saying. Because beneath every craving is a message. And that message might not be what you think. You don't fall in love. Your nervous system locks onto familiarity. That sentence might disturb you because it challenges romance itself. But your body decides before your mind justifies. When you meet someone new, your brain scans for emotional resemblance, not physical resemblance. Emotional resemblance, tone, energy, availability pattern, dominance pattern, distance pattern. All of this happens below awareness. Within milliseconds, your amygdala reacts before your cortex evaluates. That means attraction is pre-verbal. You think later, you justify later, but your body already chose the template. If that template matches an early attachment imprint, your system activates. Activation feels like a spark. Spark feels like chemistry. Chemistry feels like destiny. But destiny is often repetition wearing perfume. Your nervous system doesn't ask, is this healthy? Have I seen this before? If the answer is yes, your system relaxes into familiarity, even if familiarity is pain. This is why you might repeatedly desire emotionally unavailable people. Because your early experience taught you that love required effort. Effort equals worth. So you feel most alive when earning affection. You confuse pursuit with passion, but pursuit might just be reenactment. Your system tries to recreate unresolved attachment dynamics. It's not weakness. It's unfinished learning. When you were young, you had no power. Now you unconsciously try to rewrite that story by choosing similar characters in adulthood. If you can make this one stay, maybe you were always worthy. If you can make this one commit, maybe you were never too much. If you can make this one choose you, maybe your childhood pain wasn't your fault. But here's the fracture. No adult relationship can heal a wound you refuse to see. Because you're not seeking connection. You're seeking correction. Correction of a past emotional imbalance. And desire becomes the vehicle for that correction attempt. This is why letting go feels catastrophic. It's not losing a person. It's losing a second chance at rewriting history. That is why you cling. That is why your chest tightens. That is why logic fails. Your body is fighting to preserve an identity story. I can make this work. That sentence has power. But ask yourself, work for what? Or identity repair. Now we go deeper into sexual energy itself. Sexual desire is not just about attraction. It is about validation, dominance, safety, and emotional belonging. When someone desires you, your nervous system interprets that as social confirmation. Confirmation equals stability. Stability equals survival. So your brain links arousal with worth. If you grew up feeling invisible, being desired becomes intoxicating. If you grew up feeling powerless, being sexually chosen becomes empowerment. If you grew up feeling rejected, being pursued becomes redemption. This is why desire is so psychologically charged. It isn't just pleasure. It is identity reinforcement. But when identity depends on external desire, you become dependent. Dependent on response. Dependent on attention. Dependent on being wanted. That dependency makes you vulnerable to manipulation. Because whoever controls validation controls your nervous system. And whoever controls your nervous system controls your emotional stability. That is how desire becomes ownership. You don't notice it because it feels mutual. But check the pattern. Who thinks about whom more? Who waits for messages? Who overanalyzes tone shifts? Who feels anxious when silence appears? The more anxious system is the more attached system. And attachment under anxiety is not freedom. It is activation. Activation is addictive. Addiction feels intense. Intensity feels meaningful. Meaningful feels real. But real doesn't mean healthy. Healthy often feels calm. Calm feels unfamiliar. Unfamiliar feels unsafe. So you return to intensity. Again and again and again. Now let's talk about shame. Shame often shapes desire more than attraction does. If you were shamed for expressing emotion, you may desire partners who withhold emotion. If you were shamed for your sexuality, you may oscillate between suppression and obsession. Suppression builds pressure. Pressure seeks release. Release feels explosive. Explosion feels alive. But aliveness built on suppression is unstable. This creates a cycle. Repress. Crave. Indulge. Feel shame. Repeat. That loop strengthens neural pathways. And neural pathways strengthen identity. Soon you start saying, "This is just how I am." But you weren't born with that loop. It formed through repetition, through emotional adaptation, through survival-based adjustments. Identity is not essence. It is accumulation. Accumulation of learned reactions. Desire feels deeply personal, but most of it was patterned before you became conscious of choice. That realization destabilizes ego, because ego wants authorship. Ego wants control. Ego says, "I choose who I want." But the nervous system says, "I recognize what feels familiar." And familiarity wins faster than logic. Now we approach the uncomfortable center. If your desire owns you, then your freedom is limited. Freedom requires awareness of impulse. Right now, impulse feels like truth. But impulse is often memory replay. Memory replay feels urgent. Urgency feels important. Important feels meaningful. Meaningful feels destined. But urgency is not destiny. It is activation. And activation is chemistry responding to pattern. Once you see this, you cannot unsee it. The next time you feel drawn to someone intensely, ask yourself, what does this feeling resemble from my past? What emotional tone does this mirror? What am I hoping this person will prove about me? Those questions interrupt automaticity. Automaticity is what allows desire to own you. Interruption introduces choice. Choice weakens conditioning. Weakening conditioning destabilizes identity scripts. Identity scripts crumble slowly, not overnight, but awareness plants cracks. And cracks eventually collapse structures. That collapse is uncomfortable because you lose certainty, but you gain clarity. Clarity allows recalibration. Recalibration means you can feel desire without being controlled by it. You can experience attraction without losing self-possession. You can want without needing. Needing is where ownership begins. Wanting is flexible. Needing is desperate. Desperation signals nervous system threat. Threat narrows thinking. Narrow thinking reinforces repetition. Repetition strengthens identity. Identity resists change. And the cycle continues. Unless you disrupt it. Disruption requires awareness plus tolerance. Tolerance for discomfort. Because when you stop chasing intensity, You feel emptiness. That emptiness is detox. Detox from validation cycles. Detox from intermittent reward. Detox from emotional unpredictability. Detox feels dull. Dull feels lifeless. But dull is often just regulation. Regulation is not boring. It is stable. Stability allows clarity. Clarity allows intentional desire. Intentional desire is different from conditioned craving. Intentional desire does not panic at silence. It does not chase inconsistency. It does not define self-worth through response speed. It observes. It chooses. It adjusts. You don't just want them. You want to win. That realization is uncomfortable because it challenges the purity of your intentions. But look closely at your pattern. When someone pulls away, does your attraction decrease? Or does it intensify? If it intensifies, you're not chasing love. You're chasing victory. Victory over rejection. Victory over uncertainty. Victory over the version of yourself that once felt powerless. This is where ego attaches to desire. Ego does not like to lose, especially not in matters of attraction. If someone doesn't choose you, ego interprets that as deficiency, and deficiency threatens identity. So ego activates compensation. You become more attentive, more strategic, more charming, more obsessive, not because you love them, because you cannot tolerate the idea that you are not enough. That is ego preservation. Ego preservation often disguises itself as romance. But romance does not panic at loss of validation. Ego does. Now observe another pattern. Sometimes you feel most attracted when you sense competition, when someone else desires the same person, when attention feels scarce. Scarcity intensifies perceived value. This is basic behavioral economics. What feels limited feels valuable, but valuable does not mean aligned. It means threatened. Threat sharpens attention. Sharpened attention increases dopamine. Dopamine amplifies desire. Desire amplified by scarcity feels electric. Electric feels meaningful. Meaningful feels like fate. But it might just be ego responding to competition. Now let's talk about power. Desire is deeply linked to power dynamics. Who chases? Who withdraws? Who controls timing? Who responds slower? These microdynamics shape attraction intensity. If you grew up feeling powerless, you may crave partners who feel dominant. Dominance feels strong. Strong feels protective. Protective feels safe. But dominance without emotional safety recreates imbalance. You may unconsciously choose imbalance because imbalance feels familiar. Familiar feels right. Right feels inevitable. But inevitable does not mean healthy. Sometimes you feel most attracted when you are slightly destabilized, when you don't fully know where you stand. Uncertainty increases dopamine. Dopamine increases focus. Focus increases obsession. Obsession feels deep, but depth fueled by anxiety is not connected. It is activation. Now let's approach something sharper. If someone is deeply available, consistent, predictable, do you feel slightly uninterested? That boredom might not be about them. It might be about your nervous system not being activated. Activation became your baseline. Calm feels flat. Flat feels lifeless. But lifeless might just mean stable. Your system may confuse stability with lack of chemistry, because chemistry for you was always paired with tension. Tension equals aliveness. Aliveness equals meaning. Meaning equals attachment. But tension-driven attachment is not sustainable. It exhausts you, and yet you return to it because calm feels foreign. Foreign feels unsafe. So you sabotage stability, not consciously, but subtly. You pick fights. You test loyalty. You create distance. You withdraw affection. Anything to recreate activation, because activation reassures your nervous system that the bond is real. If it doesn't feel intense, you question it. But intensity is not proof of alignment. It is proof of stimulation. And stimulation is not the same as intimacy. Intimacy requires calm presence. Calm presence requires safety. Safety requires self-regulation. Self-regulation requires awareness. Without awareness, you default to stimulation, because stimulation is familiar. Now let's move into identity recalibration. Once you see that desire was conditioned, you face a choice. Continue operating automatically, or intervene consciously. Intervention begins with observation, not suppression. Suppression strengthens craving. Observation weakens automaticity. The next time attraction spikes intensely, instead of asking, "How do I get them?" What part of me is activated? Is it abandonment fear? Is it validation hunger? Is it a competitive instinct? Is it an unfinished attachment imprint? That shift alone changes power. You move from participant to observer. Observer position reduces emotional fusion. Reduced fusion creates space. Space introduces agency. Agency disrupts ownership. Ownership dissolves. Desire becomes information, not command. When you stop obeying desire automatically, ego protests. It feels unfamiliar. It feels like losing intensity. It feels like losing magic. But what you're losing is unconscious conditioning. Magic built on anxiety is not magic. It is chemistry triggered by unresolved attachment. Now here's the deeper layer. When you detach from validation-based desire, you may feel emptiness. That emptiness is not lack. It is withdrawal from external regulation. Your nervous system is recalibrating. Recalibration feels flat at first. Flat feels wrong. Wrong tempts you back into old patterns. But if you stay present, calm begins to feel neutral instead of dull. Neutral begins to feel safe. Safe begins to feel steady. Steadiness allows genuine preference to emerge. Preference is different from conditioning. Conditioning feels urgent. Preference feels grounded. Conditioned desire says, "I need them." Grounded desire says, "I like them." Conditioned desire panics at silence. Grounded desire tolerates space. Conditioned desire overanalyzes signals. Grounded desire communicates directly. This is identity reconstruction. You move from reaction to response, from craving to choosing, from validation seeking to alignment. But identity reconstruction is gradual. You will still feel old impulses. Old patterns will still activate. The difference is awareness. Awareness creates friction. Friction slows automaticity. Slowing automaticity weakens neural reinforcement. Weakened reinforcement reshapes attraction patterns. This is neuroplasticity in action. Your brain can update its templates, but only if you interrupt repetition. Repetition is what locked desire in place. Interruption is what unlocks it. Unlocking desire does not eliminate sexuality. It refines it. You begin to experience attraction without ego desperation, without validation dependency, without anxiety addiction. You stop chasing people who destabilize you just because they feel intense. Intensity no longer blinds you. Clarity sharpens you. Clarity makes you selective. Selectivity reduces chaos. Reduced chaos stabilizes identity. A stable identity does not need constant confirmation. It exists independently. And when identity exists independently, desire becomes a choice, not a command. But we're not done, because the final layer is the collapse moment. The moment you realize who you was built around being desired. And if you remove that, we confront that in the final part. There is a moment that changes everything. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's quiet. It happens when you finally admit you built parts of your identity around being desired, not around being aligned. Being desired gave you structure. It gave you proof. It gave you confirmation. It gave you stimulation. And stimulation became identity. Think carefully. Who were you in your own mind? When someone wanted you? Confident, magnetic, powerful, alive. Now think about who you felt like when no one was giving you attention. Invisible, uncertain, restless, flat. That contrast reveals everything. Your sense of self fluctuated based on external desire. that means desire was not just attraction. It was scaffolding. It held your identity upright. And if that scaffolding disappears, the structure shakes. That shaking is identity collapse. You realize you were performing charm, performing mystery, performing emotional intensity, not consciously, but strategically, to maintain being wanted, because being wanted stabilized your ego, and the ego hates instability. So you curated it yourself. You emphasized traits that attracted attention. You minimized traits that risked rejection. You became what generated desire. And over time, you forgot where performance ended and authenticity began. That is the fracture. If your identity was shaped by attracting others, then who are you when no one is watching? That question feels heavy, because beneath attraction-driven identity, there may be uncertainty. Maybe you never fully explored what you actually prefer, because you were too busy maintaining appeal. Appeal became purpose. Purpose became identity. Identity became dependent on reaction. Reaction became addictive. Addiction became normal. And normal feels safe. Until it doesn't. Because constant validation is exhausting. Constant stimulation drains your nervous system. Constant emotional intensity destabilizes long-term peace. At some point, you feel tired, not of people, of performance. And that fatigue creates clarity. You begin to notice the cycle, the pull, the chase, the high, the crash. The pattern repeats with different faces. And you finally ask, is this who I am? Or is this who I became? To survive earlier emotional instability? That question dismantles ego certainty. And the ego does not like being dismantled. It resists. It says, this is just my type. But deeper awareness whispers, this is my pattern. Patterns can change. Types feel fixed. When you shift from type to pattern thinking, you regain power. You stop romanticizing repetition. You start analyzing it. You see how your nervous system prioritized familiarity over alignment. You see how your ego confused attention with worth. You see how your desire amplified unresolved emotional imprints. That awareness is destabilizing because it means you are not as free as you believed, but it also means you are not as broken as you feared. Conditioning can be reconditioned. Neural pathways can be rewired. Attachment responses can be recalibrated. But recalibration requires something difficult. Tolerating calm. Tolerating non-intensity. Tolerating stability without drama. First, calm feels empty because your brain is accustomed to spikes. Spikes of dopamine. Spikes of cortisol. Spikes of adrenaline. Without spikes, you interpret neutrality as boredom. But neutrality is not boredom. It is baseline regulation. And regulation is the foundation for intentional identity. When you stop chasing intensity, you start noticing preference. Preference is quieter than craving. Craving shouts. Preference observes. Craving says, I need this now. Preference says, this feels aligned. Alignment is slower. It does not rush. It does not panic. It does not collapse when someone withdraws. Because alignment is internal, not externally validated. And when alignment replaces validation dependency, desire changes. It becomes clean, not desperate. It becomes chosen, not compulsive. It becomes expressive, not performative. That is the reconstruction phase. You rebuild identity. Without using attraction as scaffolding, you allow yourself to exist. Without needing constant confirmation, you become less reactive, less frantic, less ego-defensive, more grounded, more selective, more aware. And here is the final collapse moment. If desire no longer defines you, then who are you? Without intensity, without chasing, without validation loops, without ego competition, who remains? First, that space feels empty, but that emptiness is possibility, because identity not driven by conditioning can be authored consciously. You begin to choose partners who align with peace, not chaos. You choose stability over stimulation. You choose compatibility over unpredictability. You choose clarity over confusion. And slowly, your nervous system adjusts. Calm becomes comfortable. Consistency becomes attractive. Direct communication becomes safe. You no longer need dramatic highs to feel alive, because your aliveness is internal. That is the shift. Desire stops owning you. When you stop outsourcing identity, you don't suppress attraction. You refine it. You don't deny sexuality. You detach it from validation. You don't eliminate ego. You prevent it from driving. And when ego no longer drives, identity stabilizes. A stable identity does not panic at rejection. It does not collapse when attention fades. It does not chase inconsistency. It observes. It evaluates. It chooses. And that is freedom. Not from desire, but from unconscious desire. Now the final question. If your past patterns shaped your attractions, what else about you was constructed without your awareness? If desire was conditioned, what about fear? What about ambition? What about your sense of self? That question is where the next fracture begins. Because identity collapse does not stop at attraction. It moves deeper into the architecture of self. And that is where we go next.